Hello everyone, today I want to talk about a couple different GitHub things that we can cover, different techniques. It's going to involve creating branches, doing pull requests, and merging the pull requests, doing the issues, stuff like that. A couple things you might not be aware of where it's kind of like GitHub specific, but they are things that translate well into other tools like Jira. To get started, we have to create a new repo, so I'm going to go over to github.new. It'll take us directly to the new repository page. In here, I'm going to do a GitHub issues repository. That's just what I'm going to name it. I'm going to click create repository. And then once we create it, we can scroll down because I already have SSH set up. If you don't have it set up, go watch a tutorial on that. There's plenty of them that are helpful. And I'm going to click this copy button. Now I have a new Rails app here where my Git status has a bunch of files, so I haven't actually done anything. But if you don't believe me, I can go ahead and do a git init, which will reinitialize this repo. And I can do a git status, and you can see a bunch of red text, which means that there's files that we aren't tracking with Git. So let's do a git add dot to track all of them. It'll turn everything green. We can then do a git commit -m, and we'll just say this is the init commit. And at this point, we have to do our push, but if we try to do a git push, we still haven't set a remote repository. That's where copying this existing repository line from GitHub helps. We can just paste it in, hit enter, and then we can come over here and refresh, and we'll see that the repo is up here. So what I want to do now is I want to create our first issue. I'm going to come over here, click on new issue, and then I'm just going to say update the README. And then in here, I want to create a list of things like tasks that we have to do. So we're going to say change title. We'll do another one where we say change body. And then we'll do one more that says like, I don't know, do meaningful stuff. And then we'll just submit this issue. We can submit it. You'll see that that creates these checkboxes, which also creates a list of tasks that have to be done. So as we check these off, it will create a progress bar up here where when you look at the issue, you can see the progress being made on the issue. You can also assign it to whoever you want to, although this and the labels are kind of not super useful if you're just working on it yourself. Labels can be useful, but like if you're the only person working on the project, of course you're the assignee, but that'll ultimately depend on how you want to run things. For me personally, I'm not a fan of doing that. But okay, let's go ahead and let's create a branch for this. So let's come over to our code. We can click up here, and then inside of this main branch, we can say, all right, I want to create a new branch. So I'll just call this temp and come in here and create the temp branch. Now, the reason why we're creating the temp branch is because I want to show you, if we come down here and do a git branch, which will show us the branches we have, we currently only have a main branch. So if we try and do a git checkout for the temp branch, you'll see that didn't match any files known to Git. And the reason for that is we have the temp branch on our remote, but we do not have it on our local machine. To get it on our local machine, we have to do a git fetch, and this will tell us we have a new branch, which is the temp branch that we can see right here came from origin/temp. So now we could do a git checkout for our temp branch, just like that. Now what I want to do here is I want to update our README. So I'm going to come over here to our README. I'm going to get rid of the body. I'm going to change the title to just say, I don't know, like new README, and then the body will just say words here. We'll save that. We can then do a git status. We'll have one change. We can then, but we're on the main branch, right? So let's do a git branch real quick just to check what we have. We have main and temp. Let's actually use a more meaningful branch here, but let's create it from our local machine. So let's do a git checkout -b, and we'll say update README. So this will take our changes with us. So we can do a git status again, and we still have these untracked changes, but now they're on the separate branch. They're not on the main branch like we just were. So let's do a git add dot. You can also do a git add readme if you want to, and that'll specifically add the readme file. But unfortunately, I think in this case, it's like readme or something. And because I already have it added, it's not going to add it again, right? So what we're going to do is just say git commit -m. We'll say update readme. We can then do a git push, but when we try and do a git push, it's going to tell us we have to do this git push command. So it's throwing a bit of an error where it says this is a fatal error. And the reason is, although we have the temp branch up here, we don't have the update readme branch that you can see right here on our remote. So we can't push to the remote without telling it that this is a new branch. So we can do the git push, set upstream origin with the update readme branch. So we can go ahead and paste that in. That'll push it up. And now if we come over here and refresh, we'll see we have a update readme branch, and then it's asking us to compare and do a pull request. So let's go ahead and let's do that. Compare, do a pull request. We can see right here, update readme. So one of the things you can do when you have a PR like this if you have an issue that you're trying to tie it to, is you can say, all right, this will close number 1. And then it'll give you a drop down based on the number. You match the number up to the number of the issue, and then you can say this will close it. So then you create the pull request. As soon as you create the pull request, and this will change, you could say like this address is number 1, this closes number 1, etc. But if we come over to the update readme issue, you can see that we mentioned this issue in a pull request right here, which is still currently set to open. So we can come in here, we can do our code review if we want to. We can come over to the files changed. We can do, I don't know, review these changes and say it looks good to me. Or we can say, I don't know, like this, is this really meaningful though? Like asking a question or something. Start the review. Then we can do another one down here and be like, why did we remove this? You know, just asking some questions, trying to draw attention to certain things. And then you can say, all right, I'm finishing my review. Looks good to me. Although I just said there's comments here, so it shouldn't really look good to me. But then down the line, you can address those. And you can say, all right, now let's go ahead and let's merge this pull request. And we'll say update readme, confirm the merge, and then we're good to go here. And if we come over here, you can see the issue's already been closed because we already said that this will be closed when we linked it to the number 1. So that's where, you know, you might want to change the wording a bit. Make sure you're not linking to the issues and making sure that you're saying it's closed if it's not actually closed, because this is usually somewhere where someone might come in here and be like, hey, actually, I don't think this is fixed yet. And then they'll reopen with a comment, and then you'll see the issue magically reopen and everyone's kind of upset about it, etc., etc. Okay, so that's the first way we can do this. Now let's take a look at a bit of a more refined way of doing this. We can say, all right, we have this issue. We need to deal with this issue. How are we going to do that? Well, we already have this update readme branch here, right? So what we can do is we can, for the sake of example, create a second one where we say, I don't know, like polish readme. So this will be our second issue. And then we'll just say need to polish the readme more. Submit the issue. And then once we do this, we can come over here to the right. And if you look closely, if I zoom in enough, there's actually a create branch for this issue or link a pull request button. If you click on this, it'll automatically create a branch that has the number of the issue inside of it. So that's what the 3 is, because this is the third thing we've created. We've created an issue, then a pull request, and then this issue. So this is number 3. We can check out locally if we want to, but we can click create branch. It'll give us this 2 lines right here. If we just copy this, and if we run this in our terminal real quick, we'll do a git fetch origin, and then we can do a git checkout for this branch specifically. And now we're already on this branch on our local machine. So we can come in here and we can say, I don't know, more tutorial stuff here. We can save this. We can then do a git status again. Tells us we modified a readme. Let's do a git commit. But this time, let's not do the -m thing. Let's just say git commit and hit enter. Oops, if we do a git add first. So we'll do a git add for the readme, and then we'll do the git commit. That'll open up this like nano looking editor where the first line is going to be the title of whatever we did here for this commit. So I'm just going to say like polished readme. And then down here, what we can do is we can use those same checkboxes by using a similar syntax. So if we want an empty checkbox where we say like still need to do this, we leave the, we do a dash with a space, then our square bracket with a space inside of it, then another square bracket, and then we have our text over here. If we want to add something that we have done, we just put the X inside of it, and then we can say polished the readme. For example, we can then hit Control O, enter, then Control X to exit out of here, and our commit has now been published. So let's do a git push to send it up to the remote. We can then come up here to our repo again. We can come over to the code, and then we'll see polish readme had recent pushes. So we'll do a compare and pull request again. We can see we have this format in here. If we create this pull request now, it'll automatically say, oh, well, look, we have these tasks right here. One of the tasks is done, one isn't done. That was already like handled for us. And also by doing this, you can see this has been linked to the polish readme issue. So because we create the branch from the issue right here, it's already been linked up when the PR gets made. All of that's being handled for us. So this is like it's kind of similar. I think Jira and Bitbucket have a similar integration where you can go into like a Jira ticket, click on the create button, and it'll automatically create a branch for you, which will then like associate back and forth. But we can come into this PR, we can once again merge it, click confirm merge. And then if we come over here, we can see that our polish readme issue has also been closed with us. And we can once again reopen this if we want to. So again, it's not a big deal, but it is one of those things where over time, this can save you a lot of like time and energy, knowing some of these tricks. And it also allows you to stay a little bit more organized. And also, like, you know, when you come in here and you're trying to figure out like, okay, when did I think that I did this meaningful stuff? Well, it's probably associated with like this thing right here where I mentioned this issue. So maybe in here, you come in here and you say, okay, what did I do in here when I did my file changes? Okay, this is what I did. So it's just a good way to stay a little bit more organized than just by like kind of winging it and saying like, you know, I have a bunch of issues here and then I'm manually closing them as I go. By like interlinking them and having these tasks, you can sort of stay a little bit more focused. Now that said, usual disclaimer applies. If you're working on your own project for your own business or whatever, ultimately your time is whatever you think it's worth. So don't spend a bunch of time making a bunch of task lists if you're not actually going to use them or benefit from them. Like just because someone else gets value out of them doesn't necessarily mean that for you, you need to have these checkboxes that you can check off to make sure you're doing your work or whatever. Maybe you just work a lot better if you keep it all in your head and you have some pretty vague looking issues and you just create branches off of that. That said, it's still a little bit faster if you just click the button to make the branch and then just copy the command into your terminal than it is to do some of this stuff manually. So that's where you could still save yourself some time, maybe depending on how you work. But I always like to give that disclaimer because sometimes people think that just because someone said you can do these things means that you have to. And there's usually no objective best way to do things, because if there was an objective best way to do something, pretty much everyone would do it that way, right? But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Just a quick one where I wanted to talk about some of the stuff because it's something that I've seen people probably want some help with. So yeah, that's going to do it for me. Hopefully you got something out of this, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.